let's get into the Fight Island. Let's get into the Fight Island first. Fight Island is announced. It is in Abu Dhabi at Yas Island. And it's funny because everybody's like, oh my God, it's Abu Dhabi. Oh my God, UFC's Yas Island. You do realize that they've been there before, right?
Right? 3 different times.
Right?
Again, it's not that big of a deal, people.
No, it is not. They made this Fight Island thing, this biggest thing. They made it sound like it was going to be incredible. And it still might be, because
it's Abu Dhabi.
Right. Not just that it's Abu Dhabi. They're talking about basically a fighter's hub in Abu Dhabi on Yas Island. And
on the beach.
Basically, no, the only thing that's going to be on the beach is an octagon to train. Not where the fights are going to be. So if you thought that it was going to be like Mortal Kombat, nope, you're wrong. If you're thinking that it was going to be like Bodog, you are wrong. Where there was palm trees and everything else, you are wrong. It ain't going to happen.
Because the venue itself, and I say venue because it's going to look, from reports, it's going to look eerily similar to what the Apex Center looks like in Las Vegas.
Looks kind of cool.
So they're making headway over there in Abu Dhabi and getting this all situated and looking legit and everything else like that. But the fact is that it's going to look like the Apex Center. I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing because the Apex Center looks beautiful. I mean, the way they've got the production lined up, it looks great.
Look at this. See if I can get this going here. This is ideally a concept art of what the... This is like the concept art that what it's going to look like, the UFC in Abu Dhabi. Kind of cool, right? I kind of like it, kind of dig it. And also they'll have, like I said, they'll have an octagon on the beach for training. But basically again, I swear, it's like the UFC is listening to every single thing that everybody is saying about how they can put on a presentation.
See, Tristan, if it really looks like this...
Yes.
If it really looks like this is fitting for what Abu Dhabi really looks like.
100% agree.
Because if you look at some of the stuff in Abu Dhabi or on Yas Island, like, let me just throw something out there for you, okay? On Yas Island, you have the Ferrari World, which holds the world's fastest roller coaster. They've got Yas Water World. They got Warner Brothers World, which is has theme lands, dude, of like Gotham City, Metropolis. Like, my God.
What's interesting, though, is that what I was saying is that UFC seems to be listening to everything, right? Because you have to still have fighters isolated.
Yeah.
Something that Top Rank did, and they just had a card on ESPN, remember?
Which is on my notes to talk about here soon.
Yep. But what they did was they created a top-ranked boxing bubble. So where you would go in, all the fighters would show up at a certain time. They would check in at a certain time. They would all be escorted up to their hotel rooms where they would be tested and left. You could only go from point A to point B if you're eating dinner. You can only go from point A to point B if you're going to train. UFC has created a fighters hub. Again, we talked last week about fighters camp that could be happening in London, right?
Yeah.
So they're taking a little bit of everything. So fighters will be ushered in a sanitized car to the building, to a hotel room, escorted to a back elevator away from everybody, ushered up to their hotel room where a floor will be dedicated to them and where they will be left alone. They can only go from the hotel room to training on the beach. They can only go from the hotel room to dining. They will be escorted to make sure that nobody is anywhere in contact with fighters. Basically, they're going to be like kind of like chaperone the whole entire time.
But you want to know what, Tristan? Is like that all sounds great and dandy, and they're going to their first fight. We have a date, July 11th. It'll have 3 title fights. It'll have Usman versus Burns, who people are absolutely like ripping a new one because it's like, how did Gilbert Burns get the title shot? We'll see what he did to Tyrone Woodley, and the fact that he's willing to compete against his own teammate. Volkanovski defends his title against Max Holloway in a rematch. Peter Yan versus Jose Aldo. Great card for Abu Dhabi. I mean, there's no questions asked about it. However,
You had to go all out.
let's get into the negativity of it, okay? Because, yes, there is a lot of negativity. You're wondering why the UFC has not been back in Abu Dhabi. And I say that because they signed a long-term agreement with the Abu Dhabi Entertainment. Previously a 5-year deal. They only had 3 fights. They didn't even have any 2 other fights to it. And that was mainly because of the rules and regulations that they have for females.
Yes.
They're very harsh in that society about females. You can't wear certain things or whatever it may be. So they didn't go back. It didn't. The way that they wanted to promote their fight cards, Abu Dhabi was putting limitations and restrictions on it. So what makes it any different this time around? Or are you just that desperate to create Fight Island that you'll do whatever Abu Dhabi says? And if that's the case, then bravo for you doing it. The other negative thing is it's happening in July. July in Abu Dhabi is the second hottest month of the year. And you're asking them to basically fight in a makeshift hangar in Abu Dhabi.
In over 115-degree heat.
We saw how awkward it was when LFA fought on the hangar in what? Orange County? I forgot exactly. And if I'm wrong, sorry about that. But how sweaty and sticky you get.
We've even seen the issues where WWE goes over into the Middle East and with the heats and the sweating. And they've been outside. And if that was an issue for their wrestlers, I can only imagine what it will be like for fighters inside of a cage.
Yeah.
Oh, Titan FC. I think is what you were talking about.
Oh, not LFA.
I think that's what you were talking about. Just dawned on me.
But either way, you get the premise behind it.
Yes.
You get the premise behind it. Promotions, did it on a hanger, and it was just awkward, sticky. It looked uncomfortable. The fighters were uncomfortable. It just was not a good night or good look at all.